What's the most obvious lie you've ever been told? Story 1. We can't give you a raise right now, but we'll compensate you as soon as the budget allows. Turns out, when the budget allows actually means when you already have another job offer and submit your 2 weeks' notice. Story 2. I was picking up a sofa from a guy I found on Kijiji, and just before I left, he stopped me to see if I wanted to buy a mirror he was also trying to get rid of. I wasn't really interested, but my wife seemed keen, so we paused in the hallway to check it out. He said, "It was a gift from my son-in-law. It's a beautiful mid-century antique. I'll let it go for $75. He went on about what an amazing mirror it was, and even told me, "Pick it up and feel how sturdy it is." I picked it up, it was actually really heavy, and took a peek at the back. There was a Value Village sticker with a $30 price tag. I kind of chuckled to myself and asked if he would go any lower than $75. He said, "I really couldn't." Then I said, "Well, I can see a tag from Value Village on the back here." We ended up getting the mid-century antique mirror for $15, and my wife and I still laugh about the amazing deal we got on it. Story 3. My ex told me he'd been in a car accident, said he totaled his car and broke a few ribs. He was trying to get sympathy so I'd get back together with him. He even blamed the accident on me, claiming he was distracted after the breakup. He sent me a photo of a smashed car, supposedly his. I did a reverse image search, and it turned out to be the first picture that came up of his car's make and model after a crash. He had clearly made up the whole story based on that photo. But here's the kicker, the wheels didn't match. So I drove by his house that evening, and his car was parked in the driveway, perfectly fine. When I confronted him, he said, "Oh yeah, I paid the shop extra to get it fixed today. I wanted to have my car ready in case you wanted me to come see you." Story 4. I speak French, though I'm losing it from lack of use. One of my guy friends in college started dating a girl from France. He was really excited because she'd be able to talk to me in her native language, and I could help translate. So he brought her to a party at my sorority house and introduced us. I greeted her in French with a very simple, "Bonjour, bienvenue, comment ça va?" Just, "Hi, welcome, how are you?" She gave me a blank stare and turned red. Then she said, in what I thought was a strange accent, that she was sorry, she didn't understand me. I looked at my friend and said, "I thought you told me she was French?" I figured maybe she was from a different country and he had just been confused. He looked at her, and she immediately turned and left. He followed her out and came back a bit later, saying he had caught up with her, and she started screaming at him in perfect Midwestern accented English, calling him a jerk for setting her up to look like a fool. He had genuinely been excited to introduce her to someone she could talk to, so he was completely shocked by her reaction, and then furious when he realized she had lied. Apparently, she thought faking an accent would make her more appealing or something. I'd see her around campus after that, but she avoided me like the plague. Honestly, I felt bad for her, but if you're going to fake it, at least pick a country whose language you can actually speak. Story 5. An ex-housemate of mine was the most chronic liar I've ever met. She was also a complete nut job. She stole from all the housemates and from her workplace, and even keyed my car. But here are some of her most memorable lies. Her dad was the former CEO of the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. She was having an affair with one of the shift managers at the bar we worked at. He was engaged to someone else. The venue manager tried to sexually assault her, and security at our work knew but kept it quiet at her request. She pointed at a wedding ad on a bus. The model's face wasn't visible, and claimed the model was her. After a local car accident that tragically killed several teenagers, she claimed she had been with them earlier that night, but got out of the car just before the crash. She insisted she could handle the bond clean on her own. The final clean needed to get a rental deposit back. We had to go back and redo it ourselves. She hadn't done anything. She claimed her dad was verbally abusive, but her sisters said he never was. She said she had her license to be a shift manager, which was a legal requirement in QLD liquor venues at the time, but didn't want to tell our workplace because they'd promote her and she didn't want that kind of responsibility. It was exhausting just keeping up with the drama. Story 6. I dated a girl who was a pathological liar. I didn't even realize that was a real thing when my dad first warned me about it. I thought he was just exaggerating. After I left the relationship, I started to see how ridiculous her lies were and how naive I had been for believing them. I guess the saying, "blinded by love," really is true. Some of her most absurd lies. One time she called out of work because, according to her, She was out on her parents' boat in the ocean, and it ran out of gas. They had to call a friend to come rescue them and tow the boat back to shore. I later found out she had just thrown a party and was too hungover to go to work. She claimed she met Donald Trump. This was around 2013, and his associates in Atlantic City. According to her, they invited her and her friend to drive around with them, visiting his casino, eating the best food, and drinking top-shelf liquor, all on his tab. When she got mono while we were dating, I never caught it. She said the doctor told her it was anxiety-induced mono, which is why I didn't get infected. This was conveniently around the same time she told me a guy at a party had been hitting on her, but she didn't hook up with him. A week later, I found out she actually had. She was previously engaged. This one was actually true, and after breaking off the engagement, she said she went to a pawn shop, sold the ring, and used the money to buy alcohol. She told me she had totaled 3 cars in her life, but somehow convinced the insurance company each time that it wasn't her fault, and basically got a free replacement car every time. Looking back, I can't believe how much of that I just accepted as truth. Story 7. I once worked in a factory where I was trained by multiple people. One of them was a guy named Brian, nicknamed Lion Brian. He had tons of stories, and some were just completely outlandish. He claimed he had a rifle with a scope that could see through walls, that a major university a couple of hours away wanted to borrow his supercomputer. This was in the early 2000s, and plenty of other wild tales. The thing is, Brian was also an EMT, and actually seemed pretty good at it. So the most unbelievable story he told us was this. As an EMT, he was frequently asked to assist on the med-flight helicopter. That part seemed plausible enough. But then he said he was asked to help so often that he had a helipad built on top of his double-wide trailer. Yeah, not quite as believable. Story 8. I was driving home with my girlfriend at the time, and we were talking about the band 30 Seconds to Mars. She told me a story about how, when she used to work at a hospital, she met the lead singer, Jared Leto. But it didn't stop there. She claimed they talked, exchanged email addresses, and kept in touch often enough for him to fall in love with her. Apparently, she was dating someone else before she met me, so she had to turn him down. She even said the song Closer to the Edge was written about his love for her. I turned to look at her, assuming she was joking and we'd both get a laugh out of it. But she was completely serious. Out of curiosity, I looked up the meaning behind the song. Turns out, it's about world peace. LOL. All I can say in my defense is, the sex was amazing. Crazy girls really do know how to keep a guy happy. Story 9. Authorization of inpatient treatment has been denied. The patient's condition is chronic and better managed in outpatient care. Translation: the patient keeps relapsing and we don't want to keep paying. Try again when you're almost dead. I was severely ill from my eating disorder, sitting in my primary care physician's office, waiting to be admitted to the hospital under her orders. But I had to leave because I couldn't afford it without insurance coverage. My vitals were bad, but not bad enough for my doctor to legally admit me. I went home, and the next day, I fainted on the hardwood floor of my apartment, alone, and had a seizure from malnutrition. I was admitted to the hospital, where I suffered a minor heart attack before getting an NG feeding tube. I stayed there for 3 weeks. Fuck you, insurance. And go me, for being fully recovered now. This was over 3 years ago. Story 10. A girl once told me she was pregnant with my child. I told her you can't get pregnant from swallowing cum. She slapped me hard across the face and said, "Yes, you can, and I am." At that point, I got a restraining order against her, and she disappeared. Then, out of the blue, she sued me for child support when the kid was almost 2 years old. I think she was hoping I wouldn't see the letter and would go into default so she could at least get something out of it. Thankfully, my state covers the cost of a DNA test if paternity is disputed. She even requested a retest, but the court denied it. Story 11. This morning, I got a call from Visa, a notification from my bank, and alerts on my phone from Amazon. Someone was trying to use my cards and hack into my Amazon account. That's when I realized I had lost my wallet. About an hour later, my ex, who I had broken up with just the day before, texted me to say she had found my wallet and not to worry. She wouldn't try to use my cards. She also mentioned that the cash, $60, was already gone when she found it. I pointed out that she had just admitted to being in possession of my cards at the exact time the fraud attempts were happening. She got super aggressive and then hung up. Yeah, real smooth. If you enjoyed the video, Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, activate the notification bell, and share a similar story or anything you'd like to say in the comments. See you next time.